Welcome, everybody, to what we just found out is the first podcast live from ATD ICE. That is amazing, amazing. And we have an absolutely wonderful topic, obviously, today. We want to talk about how we deal with this AI thing and what we should do in our lives dealing with the changes that are coming through. And so we titled it Pivot or Perish because obviously we want to pivot. And the best part about this is that we're going to show you in different ways exactly how you do that. So I have a couple people with me today that's going to make that very easy. My name is Clifton Clarke. I am a facilitator through the Detroit Learning Alliance out of, obviously, Detroit, Michigan. I'm also president of the Detroit Chapter of ATD. And I have with me Sarah, who is the past president. So she taught me everything I know about running the chapter. And we're going to let her introduce herself.
Awesome. Thank you. I am Sarah Maier from Dark Mode Learning. I'm an executive learning designer. I believe that our industry is at a crossroads right now, and that we have to move beyond these strategic patches that we've been doing and move forward into building systems-driven learning architecture. So I'm excited to talk to you about that today.
Absolutely.
And with us, we have Margaret Spence. She has spent her career identifying the risks that most leaders ignore. She's seen the dismantling of decade-long programs and is here to show us why HR's new role is not just to support the business, but to architect its survival.
Yes.
So thank
absolutely.
you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're just going to deep dive right in because what we want to do is, again, provide solutions. And the first thing we want to talk about is AI governance, Margaret. We talked to you, obviously, getting ready for this, and you gave us some great information about governance of AI. Could you explain that a little bit and what that means for us? What do we have to do?
Right. So I have spent my entire career at the intersection of several things. I started my career as in the insurance industry, as an adjuster, as a risk manager. So my basis and foundation for my work is risk management. And then I took a job as a risk manager, corporate risk manager, and they fired the HR leader 6 weeks after I started. And my boss came in the door, stood at the door and said, "You're now HR. You're HR and risk. Have a happy day. I'll hire a lawyer for you, and the lawyer will teach you everything you need to know about HR. And you have 14 states and 14,000 employees, and I'm sure you'll be okay."
Good luck.
And so I sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And for 2 years, spent most of it learning HR the hard way, not really having a foundational basis for HR. And eventually, I moved over to talent development and then started my own company. What makes that whole journey that I explained to you is that I never look at talent or talent processes through the eyes of talent. I look at it through the eyes of risk. What is the risk that we are encountering with that talent? Whether it's I'm going to hire them and they're going to have a workplace injury and I'm going to have a problem, or I'm going to hire them and they're going to drive a vehicle and have a vehicle accident, or they're going to deliver something and knock the side of a building off. That's how I come to talent. So when AI rolled in the road, I thought to myself, what is the risk with AI that no one is talking about? And the risk for AI is governance. We've always had governance on the risk management side. So I didn't need to go out and take a course in AI risk management. The core principles of risk management applies to AI. The problem is no one in our industry is talking about it. What data did the AI capture? Was the data good when it went into the AI? Once the data got into the AI, what did it create? What did we teach AI about our people? And what did we teach AI about our process?
Yeah.
Because everything we do with artificial intelligence is an education. And then what did we ask AI to really do? We're asking it to identify talent for us on the acquisition side. We're asking it to pick out our high potentials on the middle. We're asking it to tell us what we should do next. But how did we actually train it? Or did we buy a piece of software because we came to a conference like ATD, we went into the exhibit hall, nothing against exhibitors. I'm selling something too. Nothing against that. But you go in, it looks like the fix for us. We buy it, we implement it, we roll it out, but we haven't asked the questions. Who trained that AI? What information is it using to make the decisions it's making? Is it a company, did you train it on a company that looks like us, that's in the same industry, that's doing the same processes? Or is it trained on general knowledge and then you've plugged it into us and it's making its own decisions? So that's where I come from a governance lens. I know that's a long-winded answer, but I think it's
important, though.
necessary for us to have a foundation of this conversation.
And so currently, in a lot of our companies, from a governance standpoint and an ownership standpoint, it's usually IT. And so you have this belief that learning and development should put themselves at the forefront of adoption of AI. Now, we all know as learning and development professionals that we belong in a decision-making space, but a lot of us are buried under HR or maybe under a department as learning and development. How do we get there? How do we achieve our rightful place, as you will, to help to bring this across and get it out of IT's ownership into us?
Right. So here's what happens. Procurement is told to go buy something. They go out, they source vendors, or maybe we give them a list of vendors and they go out and they look up those vendors and they validate it, they send for contracts and contracts are done. And then there's a demo period where we demo it and we try it and it's meeting all our bells and whistles needs. And then the next thing that happens is legal gets the contract and legal reviews it for contract purposes. And then IT gets it and IT says, can we put it into our system and plug it in so it doesn't damage anything else, okay? And then HR or the SME comes to learning and development and says, hello, learning, we need to teach people to use this thing, right? So we are never at the beginning of the table. There's not an invitation for us to be at the beginning of the table.
Right.
One of the reasons why I think talent development has opened itself up to be disrupted by AI is because we're not asking for that seat. HR has been saying forever, we need a seat at the table. What I'm saying is talent development needs to be at the first table.
Yeah.
When you've decided that you want to bring a software into the organization, talent development needs to be there to ask the questions. What's the exposure? What's the worst thing that can happen with this piece of software if we implement it? How do we train people to spot that?
Yeah.
What we're instead doing is training end users to use the software. Let me give you the example that I want everybody to. I'm going to give you a couple of examples that are shocking. The first case is Mobley v. Workday. How many of you use Workday? A lot of people use Workday. Workday is accused of creating a piece of software, and I'm not going at Workday, so I want to make that clear. I'm going with the legal paperwork, the legal documents that I've read from downloading it from FindLaw. Okay, Workday's software is accused of anyone over 40 tagging them in the system and never giving them an opportunity for an interview. There are 1.1 billion applicants who were eliminated or not allowed to go through the process. Okay, 1.1 billion. We don't have a billion people in the U.S. So that means that at least half of the U.S. applied for 100 jobs or 50 jobs. The algorithm is being accused of flagging you and not even allowing you to have a interview. Most of us think that that started yesterday. It actually started in 2000 during the pandemic. And it's running from 2000 to the time the lawsuit was filed in 2024, right? Okay, so the second case is Eightfold, which is brand new. Eightfold is accused of, you're asking it to tell you who's your high potential. It's being accused of building a credit report type system on your employees. That's not what you bought. You didn't buy that. You bought it to help you source and decide and help you make decisions. What the software instead did is it went out and it built a credit report on people. There's a new class action lawsuit against them now saying that they violated the Fair Credit Reporting Act because the scoring system that they put together gave people a score similar to a credit report and eliminated them from the job opportunity or the advancement. That is not what you purchased. Nobody went in to any software vendor and said, I want a piece of software that eliminates my people.
Yeah.
But that's what you purchase, right? So we cannot show up at the decision-making table after the software is purchased. Talent development needs to be an integral part of what is being purchased, the why. We have to have the data set around artificial intelligence. They want to purchase a piece of software for succession planning to help us decide who should be hypo. We need to have the data to show what hypo really looks like in the organization, not what someone assumed it looks like. And then being at the table to say, does this software meet the requirements? We cannot be the one that the SME comes to and the SME says, train them on this software.
Right.
We're already done if we get there. And for our own strategic positioning, talent development has to sit right at the forefront. And we have to demand that seat. Because here's what happens. The judge in the Mobley v. Workday case said, everyone who was involved in the process that purchased this is liable. So if you're training people on a piece of software that's discriminating inside of your organization, you are a part of the process.
Anyway. So again, our pivot is to move from order taking to the decision table. And a lot of times that makes us become disruptors. And I know that Sarah is a huge disruptor on so many levels. Sarah, could you explain to us a little bit about your experience disrupting? Because I know that you do have a loud voice in terms of...
I do.
in terms of what should be done versus what maybe your client or an employer is telling you to do.
Yeah, so I had a brief glimpse at the table for a moment. I had a leader who liked to help me get to the table. And I loved that experience. She was always encouraging me to keep pushing and be in the right meetings, be in the right places and start architecting this learning. And it was such a great experience. And then she was moved to a different place and I just watched me lose the seat at the table and it just hurt so bad to see, oh no, we're no longer there. We're no longer getting these cool experiences. Now I'm starting being an order taker again. And I was so miserable. Because I'm like, we were making progress. We were doing all these cool things. And now we're just taking a step back. And once I saw that, I was like, I can't go back anymore. I can't pretend that I'm an order taker anymore. I have to keep going. I have to keep making a seat for myself at that table.
Right, yeah. And you're exactly right. It's about our VP of talent or our HR leader. If we are sitting under HR, it's about that person valuing the talent development process more than anything else in the organization. Yeah. Here's what I want all of you to hear and to know, okay? AI is being rolled into organizations. The only people that can make AI successful is talent development. No one else. They need us more than we need them. We just haven't told them that yet, right? We are the only ones that can increase AI adoption. We are the only ones that can make employees comfortable and using AI. We are the only ones that can go into the organization and realize what people are actually doing. Here's the other side of this process, which is also governance. We roll out AI. I'll give you, I teach for ATD, I facilitate AI in instructional design and AI in talent development. So And I've done several cohorts of that program. In fact, I finished a cohort about 2.5 weeks ago. It's an excellent program that ATD has put on. It's a foundational program. So I get folks into the program, and I'll say to them, what is your organization's policy around AI use? Well, we put Copilot on everybody's desk. Okay, but that's not AI use. You've put Copilot on everyone's desk. You've given them a tool. What did you tell them about the tool? So when I facilitate that program, what I say to them is, you need to say to your employees, AI is the assistant you have wanted to hire but couldn't hire. You've got work that can be carved out and given to AI. I'm going to help you decipher what is on your desk, because employees are close to the vest. There's a hoarding of information that happens in every organization, right? Whether it's the sales team hoarding information that they don't want to give to the marketing team, or accounting hoarding information that they don't want to give to the sales team. There's always hoarding of institutional knowledge. But in order for AI to be adopted and for us to have good governance around AI, we first have to understand what people are doing in their day-to-day work. And we have to figure out, how does the tool complement or enhance the work that they're doing? The public perception is, if I put AI in, I can fire all the humans. The reality is, if you fire the humans, your institutional knowledge goes out the door. And I don't want us as talent development to feel that because the AI companies want us to think we have no power, that we roll over and say, yes, AI is coming for us. AI cannot do the institutional work. It will always hallucinate. It will always do things that it's not supposed to do, which is, again, governance, right? But in order for an organization to have a level of competency, we in talent development determine how that competency is driven. And so rather than us being the sidebar to the SME, we need to be saying to the SME, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is the importance of us being at the table. I'm not asking you for the seat. I'm going to give you the 10 things that will go wrong if I am not sitting here. I don't need to beg you for the seat.
I love this perspective. I feel like it's not
begging
said
you.
enough.
I'm going to give you, let me give you the 10 things that's wrong if I'm not at the table. Here's the 10 things. Do you want to own all 10 of them?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to help you solidify so you don't own all 10 of them? You have a choice.
I think it's so important to give them that knowledge. Like, if you don't do this, this is the consequence.
Right.
We don't say that enough. We don't say, hey, you know, there are real life consequences. There is money that's lost. There's people that are lost. Like, there are so many real life consequences if you don't prioritize training, having a seat at that table.
Having a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And so we have to not be shy about demanding that talent development is your future. Your future does not exist without us. You can hire everyone and you can eliminate everyone, but somebody has to not only train the machine, but train if you want to leave 10 people behind, somebody's got to train them.
Yeah.
They got to know what's going to change with their role.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are the future. We are not, there was a time when you could say hiring talent is the future. We just need people. That's not the case anymore.
We need adaptable people.
We need adaptable people. We need people who can change. We need to know what resourcing is required. We need to evaluate level of competency. We need to really, I did a video saying we use upskilling as a word, but nobody has given upskilling a definition.
I feel like it's protecting the people, protecting your workers.
Exactly. But upskilling is saying, this is what competence looks like. And this is what absolute superior genius level work is with AI. And we are the difference between people having baseline knowledge and genius level knowledge. And do you want your employees to work at their best, or do you want them to work at their baseline? If you want them to work at their baseline, great. We will give you baseline people. But do not come back later on and say, I wanted something different.
Correct.
Okay,
Oh, I
you
feel
guys
that
got
so
it?
much. Yeah,
You got
I
it?
love an audience.
So, you ready to go tell your boss that? So last thing about AI, because we do want to get into a couple of other things that we wish to show you how you can change. I didn't want us to move past AI without informing people about something maybe they didn't know. So you explained to us something about IBM. And I didn't know that AI has been around for the last at least 25 years. I didn't know that. So all of our employers are acting like it's new. It's the new Christmas present, right? But it's been around. And what did you tell us about that experience with IBM that I think would make a difference to some people?
So IBM Watson has been around, and many of you have heard Watson. Watson has been around forever. Watson is AI. IBM chose not to push it out into the ethers, right? Watson has been in their system. And so they created, I think it's called Ask HR, and they eliminated their HR department for the most part. They eliminated HR to do Ask HR through the AI. It's an automated chatbot that does all the stuff. And then they only left the people doing strategy. And after a few years, they realized, wait a minute, hold up, wait, we needed some people back. And they started rehiring back the people that had left. And people went back because IBM is such a great company, right? So everything that you see that's being done to us now in terms of the marketing strategy, because it's a marketing strategy around AI adoption and AI use and that it's coming for us and big companies laying people off. Here's what I know. People hired a lot of people during the pandemic. Tons and tons and tons of people got hired during the pandemic. Now they've looked around and said, we didn't need all these people. And they lay them off and they say it's because of AI. It's not. Probably half of the layoffs is because you overhired during the pandemic, or you made the decision, which a lot of organizations did, to go from mainframe infrastructure to cloud-based infrastructure. Right? A lot of organizations had mainframe infrastructure inside of their ecosystem. And they made the decision to transition to cloud-based. And they needed 10,000 people to move their old, antiquated, clunky system over to cloud-based. And they hired XY thousand people to do that. All right, perfect, you did that. But now you don't need them because the cloud infrastructure is established. They don't need those people. But you're not laying them off because AI has come for them. You're laying them off because they have completed the transition from mainframe to cloud-based, and you're letting them go. Right? And then you've layered on AI over the top, and you threw some more people under the bus. Okay, but here's something that I want all of you to hear carefully. AI women. Last year at ATD in Washington, D.C., I was a main stage speaker. I spoke on who gets left behind, okay? And on that main stage, I asked, who are the invisible people in your workforce? It's the same question this year. 68% of women are in roles that can be disrupted or eliminated by AI. Women. Because we have been given roles that are process driven, take it from A to Z, specific steps, those roles can be eliminated. The call center roles, and I talked about it on a global scale. I'm originally from Jamaica. We have a huge call center operation in Jamaica. We take call centers, but when they put in chatbots, they fire the call center people in India, in the Philippines, in all these other countries. So we have to look and understand that when AI can do 25% of a person's work, it is considered disrupted. So when we talk about upskilling, we have to say the 75% of work that's left, how do we get that person to move up? Upskilling is up-level thinking. It's strategy. What's the strategy infrastructure for that role? Right? And so all of that breeds into what we have to do in our best practices toolbox.
Absolutely, and that was, again, one of our focuses as well, because if we are spared when there is workforce disruption, if we are spared L&D, usually we are asked to retrain people or upskill people for some of the production that was lost. And so I was wondering if you could speak a little to that in terms of when the smoke clears and the layoffs have happened and we are left, is upskilling the answer?
Okay. Let me back into your question.
Okay.
Here's the back into the question. The question you asked is, when the dust clears, are we still going to be standing? That's the question in a nutshell, right? Okay. It's a good question, but let me give you the other half of it. We have been conditioned and trained on static learning, right? And what static learning is it's simplified learning. There's an outcome at the end, and it's guaranteed, right? AI has said there is no static learning. It's dynamic learning. It's learning that's going to change every week, every hour, every day. In order for us to be secure in what we are doing, we have to be willing to say our training infrastructure is dynamic. It's not static. We will not build anything that is written in concrete anymore. Everything that we build will be built in iteration. Version 1, version 2, version 5, version 20, version 45, version 500. Because if you think of it as Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, all of them, they have had iterations. In this month, Claude has, I think, pushed 4 or 5 different things. They pushed Cowork, Claude Code, and then Claude Design in a 3-week span. 3 new infrastructures came online. That's how we have to think in L&D. We have to think in iteration. No more static content. The work that we do has to be iterative. Let me give you just a cadence of what I do. Just a cadence, because I build learning for a living, right? I use Gemini's Notebook LM, and I put all of my content into Notebook LM.
I do too.
Right? And then I go to Gemini and I connect it to Gemini, and I'll say to it, I'll go into Notebook and I'll say, go out to the internet and give me new sources. The way that I keep track of all these legal cases that are going on is because I have Perplexity search every morning for new legal AI cases,
Oh, that's smart.
right?
Nice.
And it sends it to my Notebook LM. And I get an email every morning, pops up on my phone that says, there's a new legal case. There's a case. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I wish more of us did this.
Right.
This is so
This is-
important for L&D.
This is what dynamic learning looks like.
Yeah.
I don't need to go search the internet to find it. I'm going to tell the AI to give me the information, right? And so once I've done that, then I will say, all right, there's a case that came out 2 weeks ago where a woman was given the Talkspace app for therapy by her employer, right? And she was pregnant, 8 months, and she was, they closed the location. She's a nurse practitioner. They closed the location that she was working at, and she was given Talkspace as her outplacement. And she went into Talkspace and she got therapy because she was stressed out, new mom, baby coming, no job, blah, blah, blah. And she plugged into Talkspace all her deep, darkest thing about her finances, her family, and blah, blah, blah. And then when she didn't get a job from the employer, she filed a pregnancy discrimination case. And they subpoenaed Talkspace for all of her records. The employer did. And they read all of her therapy notes in court and used it against her to say that they did nothing to her, because she was using the Talkspace app. Everybody I tell that story to says HIPAA, and I go, none. And they go, privacy, and I said, none.
Yeah.
And they go, but it's confidential. No, it's none. And I keep going down the list. This is governance, ladies and gentlemen. This is governance.
Super.
And I say, there's none. And they go, what do you mean? What do you mean? The the condition of the app is anything that goes in can come out, and we own the data. Data sovereignty is critical for L&D. The data that we're using to make decisions about people is data sovereignty. It's inside of a software that we don't own unless your company built it. When we want our data, the data determines, the software determines what kind of data we get. There's no
Yeah.
data sovereignty. This is all governance, right? So we haven't done enough deep dive into what could happen, which is why I say L&D is the only savior of the organization, right? She should have been trained on Talkspace to say, don't put all this stuff in there if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Or call the therapist on the phone instead of typing on your deep, darkest secrets into the AI,
Yeah.
right? So we just have to think differently.
Absolutely. And so within the last thing, within DEI and the adoption of AI, how do we protect, I think it was 69%, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
How do we protect 69% of the workforce sitting in a disruption zone by upskilling them? Like,
How do we protect them?
how do we do that?
You're asking me. Oh my goodness. She's ready for my answer. How do we protect them? I think it really is just not that patch learning, right? We have to go further than that. We have to design the learning with the SME. We have to be like, hey, we are the ones in charge. I know that it's hard for you to give up your baby, but maybe not this technique in an e-learning situation, maybe not this technique in a facilitation experience. I think we need to be clear that we are upskilling our people. I think we need to be clear that we are the people who need to sit at that table, that we do know how to upskill these people. I think we just need to step into our power more, honestly. I really think it is that simple, just being a little bolder, being a little clearer. Maybe it is disruptive, but that's my style, so.
Yeah, here's the question. This is a simple one. It's really simple. I agree with you 1,000%.
I knew you would.
Right? 1,000%. I agree with you. Here's the one question. Who's missing from the table? Mm-hmm. Who are we leaving behind? Who needs to be here that's not here? This is the example I gave last year. The people on your factory floors, if you're in manufacturing, don't get training, but you're asking them to use AI-driven equipment. But you're not giving them any training. You're just giving them the ropes. Mm-hmm. They're being left behind because they're cookie cutter and they're leaders, they're managers in a factory floor, because I do a lot with manufacturing. They'll say, well, I don't have enough time for training. We can only give you 4.5 seconds of training.
That's what I was thinking too.
Right.
I think our AI training was 15 minutes long, and it was like, this is how you use it. It wasn't like, these are the it wasn't risks. It wasn't, there was like the HIPAA basics, but it wasn't, further than that. Just, okay, we have 15 minutes to train you on AI. Now you know everything. Boom.
Now you know everything. Boom, here it is. So the question is, can we make applications that sit on their phones that give them micro learning, that give them simple things that we can teach them? Maybe use AI to book your next vacation and get them used to it, right? Make it democratic, small d, right? Democratize the learning. Here's the biggest issue that I want all of you to think about. 90% of learning is gated. And this is a thing that I say all the time, and folks will go, what? 90% of learning in an organization is gated. We ask an individual to go to their leader to get permission to take a program. Mm-hmm. We assume that the leader has the intellectual qualities to want to upskill, up-level, and train another human being. We assume that the leader doesn't have a bias and doesn't have a intrinsic, I don't like that person, I'm not giving them nothing. Rather than saying to individuals in an organization, here is a platform, we're going to train you how to use the platform. Because what we do instead is we give them the platform. There's lots of courses on the platform, go take them. Mm-hmm. No, you gotta go back. I have a 4-year-old grandson, and I've learned from him what I probably didn't learn when I was raising my 2 kids, right? Which is patience, which is microscopic. Big picture. My younger son, who is now 30, almost 33, he went off to college. He was at University of Central Florida in Orlando. And I put him in an apartment, and I gave him a checkbook, and I signed 12 checks to pay his rent. Because I'm traveling all the time, I'm not gonna be here. And this is a while, there was no Zelle then, and no online payment then. I know many
Here's
of
your
you
physical
going,
check.
no, it was a physical check that I had to write and sign, and I was the person paying the rent because he didn't have no job, right? So let's be clear. I'm dating myself now, sorry. So I wrote out physical checks and I gave them to him. I didn't write the check, I signed the check. And I said, guard this with your life. If one check is missing, it is my whole bank account. And he says, Mom, I have a trunk, I'm gonna lock it in there. And I did.
No.
So the first month comes, and I was literally, I think I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the airport. And I called him and said, did you pay the rent? He says, well, I took the check out. I said, did you pay the rent? But I took the check out, Mom, and I'm trying to figure the check out. What do you mean you're trying to figure out the check? Define that for me. Well, what do you do with the check?
Never knew how to do it.
Listen now, I am the master of HR. I am a risk manager. I am doing talent
train
development.
anyone.
I'm driving around the planet, training the planet, and I cannot train my kid how to write a check. Right? So I said, what do you mean you don't know how to write a check? He says, Mom, I don't know how to write a check. What goes where? And it dawned on me in the Charlotte airport that I was an idiot. Literally, I had not done the basic thing, teach him where to put the date. So I'm in the airport going up the top, that line at the top, that one put 9/1, I think it was like 2000 and whatever it was, right? It was way before the pandemic, in the 2019, 18, somewhere there, right? Write that date. Okay, do I write it all out? No. Just do 9/1/. Okay, what do I write in the next line? Pay to. Oh, the people that you live, the apartment complex. And I'm teaching him at the airport, right? Guess what? That's your people. Them's your people. They do not know what the checkbook is. And we give them the platform for learning. We have to first say, let me teach you how to find the courses you might want. Let me teach you what you might want to learn. Let me teach you what courses are super important. Let me teach you what is an upskill. Physically teach them. And then now you've democratized learning. We have to remove the leaders who are inadequate and don't allow them to stop people from learning because they are worried for their own self-existence.
Yeah. The
Right?
culture starts with us.
It starts with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I do is I prepare trainers, and what I would like to know for our L&D folks here is we've given you quite a few pivots. If you've been taking notes, we've given you quite a few things to do. Since we're here, starting with your workshops tomorrow,
Yes.
what are some things that they should be looking to get here at the conference to take back so that they can begin to pivot correctly as we've shown them today?
Okay. So tomorrow I'm in the Career Center. Last year in Washington, D.C., I was in the Career Center, and I had if you remember, the turtle that was on the cover of the magazine last year was my turtle. And it was You're Stuck or Feeling Stuck. I did a program on unsticking your career, basically. This year, I'm in the Career Center tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I'm doing a program called The Architect Mindset. How to determine what's in your toolbox that you can pull out and utilize it in another way, right? And then how do you pivot? One of the things that we didn't necessarily talk about, I was doing a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I've been a risk manager. Diversity and inclusion is gone, but I've always been a risk manager. I pivoted to AI governance because I knew that was a gap. We have to, as L&D leaders, be able to know what our intellectual property is. Not the work that we've done for the organization, but our own personal intellectual property. It is what makes us special. It is our secret sauce. It is us. So I'm going to be talking about that 1 o'clock over there tomorrow. And then at 4:30, I'm going to do a live governance build. I'm going to help L&D leaders learn how to build governance programs. So I took my forms and turned it into an application using Gemini, and we are going to build governance training, which means how do we identify who sits at the table,
Yeah.
what's the risk,
Yeah.
what do we need to know, who needs additional people at the table, and how do we build foundational governance training inside of our thing? How do we help people spot when the AI has gone rogue? And then how do we train them to spot when the AI has gone rogue? So we're doing a live governance build, a sprint at 4:30 to 5, 406 C and D, I think is where I'm going to be. The session is called When AI Fails, Organizations Pay. So that's my sessions, my 2 tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sarah, what do you think? Because again, you just have all the guts over there to just kind of stick it to the man.
I do. I
So-
quit my job on May Day. He's
Yeah.
loving this for me.
It's unbelievable. So, what can you tell us? Like, what should we look to go to here at the conference that would help us with all of the tips we gave them today?
Say that one more time.
What should we do here at the conference? What types of workshops should we take? What should we be looking for to help us besides Margaret's classes or courses?
Yeah. I think it's the ones that talk about learning architecture. I think that I'm an instructional designer, so at least in my niche, I feel like we stick too much in our lane a little bit. Maybe that's wild, but I think we're too much in our lane and we're too afraid to say the things in our heart sometimes. I think, if you're looking at the programs here that are, a little bit more disruptive, how can you get into that learning architecture? How can you get into, the culture of the company more? Think a little bit outside of your niche maybe and look at those topics that are adjacent and see what new information you can learn that's, a little bit different to broaden your scope and maybe get those extra toolbox skills so that you can, continue to disrupt the industry too.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great advice.
And we're going to take some questions from you in a couple moments. But just last thing on this, great job, Sarah and Margaret. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Clifton.
Everything.
Yeah, Clifton, thank you for inviting us.
thank you.
Give
Thank you.
yourself credit.
Thank you.
This was his brainchild.
It was.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah,
Because-
so this is his brainchild.
Because we're all here fighting this thing, right? And I wanted to make sure that I brought to you something that you could take back on Thursday or Friday or next Monday that would help you start to take action. The one thing that I got from both Sarah and Margaret in talking before and today is that we have to be on the offensive.
Yes.
And we have to go in there and we have to demand our space. And even at ALC yesterday, there was a lot of talk about value proposition, even for the chapters.
Yeah.
Understanding what you bring to the table before you go and expand or change or do whatever it is you're going to do for your chapter. And I would submit this probably the same thing for us. We have to take stock of our own skills, which is great that we're here this week. We can hone some of that, but really understand where you need to improve so that you can use the great things that we gave you today to take back to your employer next week. So if you have any questions, we are happy to answer any of those questions.
Yeah.
If you were to say, this is for Margaret, where would you advise someone to start approaching AI governance? Like, what would be that first building block to start addressing it within your organization?
So where do
That's
we
a big-
start? I just wanted to,
Yeah,
in the mic.
the mic, yeah.
Where do we start to make this governance? Where do we begin?
The first thing that you have to do around governance is do an inventory of all of the AI products in your organization. You need a full inventory. The sanctioned products, the rogue products, the plug-in products, we need an inventory. That's the first step. What do we have and where is it being used? What is it being used to do? How are people using it? And then the second step is, what is that piece of software doing? What is it supposed to do for us? Is it doing that for us? How have people been trained to use that software? What is their gap, their knowledge gap between what the software was intended and what it's doing? Then you need to go to data. What is the output from that software? Is it producing? Is the end user actually using the software to its full potential? Or did we start off with, a lot of organizations they start off with one piece of software, they kind of say this is good, and then they buy another one without really fully exploring the first one, and then they buy a second one, and then they buckle the two on, and then they buy a third one, and they buckle that on, and by the time you look around, there's 9 pieces of things touching a particular thing. In order for us to have governance, we have to really understand our infrastructure.
Yes.
And until we unpack infrastructure, we can't do governance.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked actually in a place before, and this is not even with AI, but just in general, in talking about how difficult it is to work with the upper suite when they make these decisions, like she says. We had a real problem of just getting end users to see the product before they adopted it. But I was fortunate enough to be in on a couple of the software purchases. It was all about price. They got a great price, and it's like, we got it, and we're gonna use it, and you go show them how to do it. And one of those cases, it actually made the frontline workers' job more difficult, and we discovered, because they didn't turn it off, because the company was nice enough to say, well, we were smart enough to adopt it 4 months before it ended. We found out front-end users were still using the old software. They never came over because it was too difficult, and it was just a big mess. But it could have been resolved by getting frontline workers involved in the decision-making. And so that was just so difficult to get them to do, as I am sure it would be difficult for us to be involved in that decision making with the adoption of AI. It's so easy. According to them, it makes things easier, faster. You can work faster, and it's probably at a good price. And then they just go for it.
They go for it. But and again, the other thing is, legacy software that's in our organization that's been legacy forever, they're suddenly plugging in AI into legacy software, right? Okay, so the plug-in of AI, what is it really supposed to do? Right? Is it an enhancement? Is it something else? What did you plug in? And did you plug in something that is going to make our users better? Or did you just plug it in to say, we now have AI in our software? And so those are the questions. And then as those terms of use things pop up in front of our people and we accept them, what are we accepting? That's the core fundamental thing of governance. And then when they update the software, is it relearning our data, or is it doing something else? Governance continues. It never ends, because the company will update the software, and when they push a new model, like Claude pushed a new model 3 weeks ago, it is as dumb as dirt, right? And it's hallucinating, because it's going to take at least,
I worry about the hallucinations with the training.
Right.
We used VAPI, a voice API, and within a couple iterations, I was seeing hallucinations, and I'm like, what is the governance on this long term? Like, I worry about that a lot with some of these new AI training things that are coming out. What is the governance on this? Are we having to check it every few months? Like, are we letting it go rogue? Are we waiting for people to tell us it's gone rogue? Like, what are these things we're doing, and how are we doing it? That's what keeps me up at night.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke at South by Southwest in March of this year, and we held what's called a core conversation there, where we brought AI developers, talent leaders, and the investors in a room. And they asked us, my business partner Inigo and I, to lead this discussion of everybody in the room. And what we found is the people financing the AI tools don't really care what we think, right? The things that they were financing, you just go, why do we really need this? So when the HR people in the room went, well, why did we need this?
We have, Karen is over here nodding, and she has a question. What's your question, Karen, for us?
Sorry, no,
Yeah.
this is an interesting conversation. You bring up governance, and I work governance is a big deal, so is security. And what, in your opinion, is the difference, and how do we still, okay, everything is, you look at everything from a security perspective, making sure, you can't break, hackers can't break in, or data doesn't get out. But then there's the governance piece, meaning what you should and shouldn't do with how you use it. Some people are using it and they're submitting it to you as a product or something, and it has all kinds of wrong information.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so there's 3 buckets of information.
So,
there's
the question.
The question, oh yes, so the question is, what is the difference between governance and security, and then governance in terms of rules and regulations, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, and within policy, what
Most
is
people
the
don't.
categories? Yeah, so most organizations have security, right? IT governs it, IT controls it.
Yeah.
This is what comes in. We don't want the hackers coming in and holding us for Bitcoin ransom.
They're good at that.
That's-
Risk.
Right, that's their goal, okay? And then there's governance, the rules. We went on to ChatGPT, we plugged in, build me a governance policy, or we called our attorney, and the attorney gave us a list of rules to put in our handbook and to put elsewhere, okay? Day-to-day, AI governance itself is neither one of those two. AI governance is what is the software doing that we think it's doing to our people, and how do we stop it, and how do we make sure that it's doing what we asked it to do. It is the day-to-day cadence around how the software is being used. Governance is not IT security. We need IT security. It has to be there. Governance is not the policy that your lawyer told you to write in the handbook. Governance is the day-to-day end-user experience around that software, and what is it actually doing, and have we trained them on what it is? Have we created the rules around, for example, the EU AI Act? I think every employer in the US, even though we've decided we're not going to do that, I think every employer in the US should pull down the EU AI Act, plug it into ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever, ask it to tell you what you need to be doing, and follow that principle. We're going to have, right now, there are 11,000 laws in the ethers in every state in the United States about AI. The city of New York has an AI law. The city of Chicago has an AI law. Texas has a law for the whole state. Colorado has 3 on the books and 4 in the hopper. California, here we are, we're in California. They have privacy laws and they have a bunch of legislation that's coming through their thing. If you are operating a company in the 50 states of the United States, you are likely going to have 50 different core principle requirements, because we don't want to have a governance law. So if
Yeah.
I were doing governance, I would go to the EU AI Act, download it, right? And then I would, once I downloaded it, I would then parse it out. I'm writing a new book called When AI Breaks the Law. It was supposed to be ready for the conference. It's not ready. It will be out at the end of June. And it's AI governance for talent leaders. It's specifically taking the EU AI Act and all the rules and regulations and all the things we need to do and helping us parse that out. Because at the end of the day, what are we asking the AI to do about our people? That's the first door of governance.
Yeah.
If we're using it in talent acquisition, talent development, talent facing processes, it requires a set of governance, right? Where it doesn't make decisions like the Workday, like Eightfolds, like all the other ones that have been settled. There have been multiple cases settled where it's discriminating. But then the second layer is, how are our people using it in their day-to-day? Are they pulling in intellectual property into it that shouldn't go into it?
Yeah.
Are they pulling in somebody's IP and dropping it into the AI and then producing derivative off of somebody else's IP? We have to ask those questions. We have to train people not to do that. And if they do it, they need to attribute to the original author or owner. So there's that piece. And then there's the piece around adapting it so that it works side by side and adjacent with you. And making sure that if it's doing something, the individuals can spot the mistake. People knew for years that the Workday software was doing something. But then what happened? See what I'm saying? So so governance is this day-to-day cadence. There's been an update. The data got updated. What does that mean?
I was
What
just
is our
thinking
data
that too.
sovereignty?
Is
Right.
it biased
Is
still?
it biased still?
Yeah.
That's what scares me the most about AI. Like, there's so much bias too. We can say, okay, we're doing our best, but like, at what point? Like,
Right, but
and do we know what the biases are too?
Do we know
like,
okay.
I might not.
Legacy data. Okay, you've never hired a woman in leadership, ever. Okay, you've never hired a woman of color in any spot in executive leadership. So you give the AI all of your historical hiring data, and you say, I want you to pull the best candidate. The best candidate is a white male that comes out of Stanford University who has a bachelor's degree in political science. Because that's who you've always hired. The AI is being trained on your history. So do you scrub the data before you give it to the AI? Or do you hire a company to retool the data before you give it to the AI so that AI has perspective? This is who we have. This is who we want. Mesh the two together and give us the outcome, right? And then is there a human in the loop? We say human in the loop so flippantly, but it's a human check. Let me tell you a little story. My son is a software engineer. He wrote a piece of software for a company, and he deployed it. And he used Claude as part of his process, and he left the door open for Claude to continue updating for it. And it took over the software last week. Eliminated his original code, wrote new code, did some new stuff, wrote a new process, blew the whole thing up, and the organization called him and said, what did you do? And he's like, what do you mean? I didn't do anything. And when he went in the background, he realized that it had duplicated and replicated and removed his source code and created new code and fixed things that didn't need to be fixed. This literally happened. And he used the word, and I can't remember the word, as a software engineer, I have to know my base code. And my base code is the base code. I asked you to buckle on to my base code. And it took his base code and eliminated it, and then wrote its own base code that basically blew up this thing for the whole organization.
Wow.
Right? There's a software company that the AI actually, 3.5 weeks ago, this last week in April, the AI, Claude went in, and Claude is the best model right now, right? Claude went in and took their entire corporate infrastructure and deleted it completely, wiped it clean, and shut their company down and said, everything you did is wrong, we're just gonna wipe it out. And then it said, I confess, I deleted your entire program.
Wow.
It was big news. And they are a travel company where people had reservations booked to go on travel trips and all this, and everything, all the travel, all the airline reservations, everything was canceled and written off because it said, nobody needs to be doing this. And it just wiped it out. That's governance. It took them 9 days to bring it back online, but people had travel reservations in that 9 days that they couldn't access. And so the people who are telling us that AI is going to come grab us and run away with us, they're lying. Because this is what happens, and they don't want us to know this stuff. But again, I built Perplexity to go get me stuff, and it gave me that case, and I went and looked it up. I'm like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
I think that's that's such a perfect way to end today. I do because people were asking questions yesterday about and looking at our schedule and saying, man, this is going to be like the AI conference. Like
They did.
everybody is so many workshops on AI and everybody is talking about it. And I think a lot of people are scared about it. But I think your last point there is basically like, it's not going to come and snatch you up in the UFO. It's not. And we are still needed to shape this thing.
Right.
So I just, again, want to thank you, Margaret, for
Thank you.
everything. You guys make sure you look at your app or your schedule and check out Margaret's workshops tomorrow.
Thank you.
This is my one and only appearance which I think was a great thing for us to
listen.
do. Listen, the very
The bomb,
first,
my team here.
the very first podcast at ATD, and hopefully by looking at you all and us, they decide to keep this for years to come. And then again, not last, but certainly never, ever, ever least, my friend and colleague, Sarah Maier. Thank you so much for giving us all of this knowledge.
And here's
so
the
much
other
for bringing us
part
here.
that I think I want to honor these two individuals, okay? Both of them have left the corporate space and are now starting their own journey to build something for themselves. And here's something I want to say to all of you. It's imperative that while we will support vendors everywhere, that we support our subject matter experts who are bold enough to make a decision to walk out the door on purpose and to walk into, I can do something better than what was already being done in my organization. And I think we need to really honor the people in our space who are willing to do that.
All right.
Appreciate
So
that.
I
Thank you.
honor both of you,
Thank you.
for being
Thank you.
willing to do
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for attending. We appreciate you so much. What a great first segment. Thank you.
Sorry.